All right, hello everybody. I hope you guys had a good Easter, a good break, some time with your family. Today what we're going to do is we're going to make a drawing of a cross that also involves a technique of doodling, sometimes referred to as Zen Doodling or Zen Tangle. Maybe that's something you've heard of before. We'll explain a little bit more about what that means in a later part of this, but to start out, we're going to draw a cross. So here are the supplies you'll need for this project. We're definitely going to need a pencil. If your pencil doesn't have an eraser, then try to find one. You'll want a straight edge. If you don't have a ruler, you can always use the side of a book or another piece of paper. We're going to want a black marker, a black pen if you have one, and then we're going to need some color pencils that are warm colors, which are red, orange, yellow, anything kind of like that. But we'll talk about these later. To start off, all we need is your pencil and your piece of paper. So our piece of paper is going to be facing up and down. This is called the portrait layout because when a piece of paper or canvas is situated like this, it's the best one for us to use to paint someone's portrait or someone's picture. If it's this way, it's called the landscape, but today we're just going to use the portrait layout. So I'd like you to start off by folding your paper in half. Okay, so now let's fold that back a little bit. The only reason we needed to fold our paper in half was so that we could see a line going down the middle. Now, it might be a little hard for you guys to see that line, what with like the camera quality, so I'm gonna draw a pencil line that follows this folded line. Okay, I don't need you to draw this pencil line. You don't need to draw that, but I'm going to draw it here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to decide where the top and the bottom of our cross is. The reason we did this fold was so that we could center the cross in the middle of the page. So I'm going to say that the top of my cross is going to be maybe about 1.5 inches underneath the top edge of the paper. If you don't have a ruler, don't worry about it. You don't have to measure it out perfectly. But if you don't have a ruler, then you can just make your mark and use your fingers sort of like this to figure out how far away the mark should be from the edge. So if this is how far my mark is up here, then if I move my fingers down and keep them frozen in that position, I can see that my mark at the bottom would be right there. Does that make sense? Okay, now let's decide where the crossbeam of the cross is going to be. So, you can go down about 1/3 of the way between the two marks that you've made. So for me, I think that would be about here. And I'm going to go ahead and very lightly, because I'm going to erase this line later, use my straight edge to draw a line like this. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing I did for the top and the bottom. Let's figure out how far away it is from the edge up here. And I'm gonna move my paper and see, okay, so my next line for where the crossbeam ends should be there. Let's do the same thing for the last mark right here, and let's go there. Okay, so now what I've done is I've made the end points for my cross. So the next thing we need to do is figure out how wide is our cross going to be. I like to use my finger as a measurement if you don't have a ruler. So let's say that our cross is going to be about 2 fingers wide. So in order to measure that, we measure first 1 finger wide on one side, and then 1 finger wide on the other side. Thanks for 2 fingers. Okay, so now we've got our basic line, and we can draw a straight line going down using our straight edge. Okay, so let's keep it light just in case we mess up. And we'll bring it down to the same level our bottom mark is at. And we'll do the same thing with the other side. Using our straight edge again. Okay. There we go. Nice. Okay, that looks good. So now we can use our straight edge to make the bottom line of the cross. There we go. All right, let's do the same thing for this cross beam. So I'm going to turn my paper so it's a little easier for me to measure, and we're going to do 2 fingers again. So measure 1 finger on one side Measure another finger on the other side. Looks good. Now I'm gonna take my straight edge and I'm gonna draw a line all the way over to this mark. Do the same thing right here. Okay, pretty good. And now let's use our straight edge to really square that up, just like that. Okay. And there we have our cross. So now what we can do is erase the guiding lines that we used and any smudges that came up like that. Okay. All right, there we have a pretty good looking cross. So the next thing we need to do is grab our black marker and we're going to outline this. Now it might be tempting to outline it just freehand, see if you can do it on your own, but I would recommend using your straight edge to outline this so that it looks very nice. You got to be careful though and make sure you don't accidentally draw marker lines where there are no pencil lines. Like I might accidentally draw a line right here where I don't need it. All right, there we have a pretty good looking cross. And this is something you can make even if you don't have a ruler and just have a straight edge, because you can use your fingers for measurement. Now I'm going to take my eraser and erase some of those pencil lines. Okay, there we go. All right, so our next step is this. We are going to take our straight edge and we're going to draw a few crisscrossing lines across the paper with our black marker. If you'd like to start off with your pencil so that you can make sure that the lines are where you want them, that's fine. But for the sake of time, I'm going to just use my black marker and just kind of go for it. So I think we're going to do maybe 4 or 5 lines, really not that many. Because while this is going to make a lot of cool shapes that will be helpful for making the piece look interesting, there is such a thing as having too many details that make this a little too busy, especially because what we're about to do with our doodling is going to make it even busier. Okay, I believe that's 5 lines, and it's already making a whole bunch of different shapes. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a stained glass window. So here's when we're going to start doing that doodling technique I was talking about. So to start off with this first one, I think we'll start just using your pencil. Find a small shape somewhere on your paper. I'm going to start right here. So Zen Doodle, some of you might know this, but this type of doodling technique is where you draw a small pattern that repeats itself over and over with a series of small designs. And it's meant just to kind of give you something to do or something to relax with. It's something that you don't have to be some extraordinary, crazy artist to do. You just have to be able to follow a pattern that you make up. So a very simple pattern is a zigzag. So I'm going to start right here with my zigzag and just make it go through. Okay, there we have it. Very nice, clear zigzag. Maybe it's a little bit off center. Do you see how the lines kind of shift over to the side? That's okay. A Zen Doodle doesn't have to be perfect. Now I'm going to take my black pen, if you have one, and I'm going to draw over these zigzags. If you don't have a black pen, that's fine. You can use your black colored pencil that should be in your school supplies, or you could just draw very darkly with your normal pencil. Okay, So there we have our first pattern. Let's let the ink dry, but eventually I'll come back with my eraser to get rid of those pencil lines. So now, if you're feeling adventurous, you can start just using your pen to do these different designs. It's up to you what you want the designs to look like. You can follow some of mine, you can copy all of mine if you'd like to, but I'd encourage you to try to come up with your own patterns and designs. Let's begin. Okay, so this project is going to take us quite a while, I think, if you are really putting effort into these designs and everything. We also still have a little bit of coloring to do, so what I'm going to say is that this is all we're going to do for this week. Just finish up half of your designs, or maybe a little bit over half, and then next week we'll finish up the designs and add the color. So great job today, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.